Imagine this. You are standing in a crowded subway car. The smell of stale coffee and exhausted humanity pressing in on you from all sides. You are wearing a suit that feels like a straitjacket, clutching a briefcase that contains nothing of import, and heading to a glass tower where you will trade the best hours of your day, the best years of your youth, for a paycheck that barely covers the cost of your existence. This is the archetype of the deferrer, the man or woman who has accepted the deferred life plan. They believe that if they suffer enough now, if they grind enough now, if they save enough now, they will eventually reach the promised land of retirement, a magical state of being at age 65 where life finally begins. But in the shadows of this gray reality, a new tribe has emerged. They are the new rich. They do not wait for the end. They do not save it all for the gold watch. They have discovered a secret door in the wall of the corporate dungeon. A way to hack the currency of life itself. The story of the 4-hour workweek is not a manual on how to do more work in less time. It is a manifesto on how to escape the matrix of the modern workforce entirely. It begins with a shattering realization: the old rules of the game were written for a different century. And following them is a guarantee of a life lived in monochrome. The narrative introduces us to the protagonist, a stand-in for Tim Ferriss himself, who hits rock bottom amidst the roar of his own success. He is an entrepreneur, yes, but he is also a slave. He works 14-hour days, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, believing that busy is synonymous with productive, and that stress is a badge of honor. He is making money, but he is bankrupt in time. The epiphany strikes him not in a boardroom, but in a moment of utter physical and emotional collapse. He realizes that absolute income, the total number on a paycheck, is a lie. A man earning $100 a year who works 80 hours a week is actually poorer than a man earning $50 who works 10 hours a week. This is the concept of relative income. The new rich measure wealth not in dollars, but in the multiplier of dollars plus time plus mobility. The goal is not to have $1 million in the bank. The goal is to live the lifestyle that a millionaire is supposed to have: freedom, travel, experiences, without actually needing the $1 million. This realization triggers the first phase of the transformation. D is for definition. The seeker must redefine what success looks like. The deferrer defines success as he who has the most toys when he dies wins. The new rich defines success as he who has the most freedom while he is alive wins. The narrative takes us into the psychological trenches of fear setting. The protagonist, terrified of leaving his business to travel the world, sits down not to list his goals, but to list his nightmares. He asks the question, what is the absolute worst that could happen if I did what I wanted to do? He writes it down. He imagines the bankruptcy, the ridicule, the loss of status, and in staring these demons in the face, he realizes they are paper tigers. The worst-case scenario is usually survivable, temporary, and reversible. The analysis of this stage reveals a profound psychological truth. We often suffer more in imagination than in reality. By defining the fear, we strip it of its power. The seeker learns that uncertainty is not the enemy is boredom and mediocrity. To step into the world of the new rich, one must be willing to trade the comfort of the known hell for the exhilaration of the unknown heaven. Armed with a new definition of wealth, the protagonist moves to the second phase. E is for elimination. He enters his office, a place that has become a temple of inefficiency, and looks at it with fresh eyes. He realizes that time management is a trap. It is a way to process more information and handle more tasks. But it does not question whether those tasks are worth doing in the first place. He adopts a new mantra: doing something unimportant well does not make it important. He wields the scalpel of the Pareto principle, the 80-20th rule. He looks at his customers and realizes that 80% of his headaches come from 20% of his clients, the ones who pay the least and complain the most. With a heart pounding with adrenaline, he fires them. He politely but firmly tells them he can no longer serve them. The silence that follows is not the silence of ruin, but the silence of peace. He then looks at his revenue and realizes that 80% of his money comes from 20% of his clients. He doubles down on serving them. The narrative intensifies as he confronts the information torrent. He realizes he is addicted to the noise, the emails, the news, the instant messages. He implements a low-information diet. He stops reading the news, realizing that if something is truly important, the world will tell him. He checks his email only twice a day, then once a day, then once a week. He sets up auto-responders that train people not to expect an immediate reply. This is the application of Parkinson's law. A task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion. If you give yourself 8 hours to check email, it will take 8 hours. If you give yourself 30 minutes, you will finish it in 30 minutes. The protagonist becomes a ghost in his own machine, disappearing from the daily grind. Yet his productivity soars. He is no longer busy, he is effective. The analysis of the elimination phase reveals the cult of busyness. Society rewards us for looking busy. We carry our exhaustion like a trophy. The new rich reject this trophy. They understand that being busy is often a form of laziness, lazy thinking and indiscriminate action. It is easier to answer 1,000 emails than to sit in silence and decide what actually matters. The elimination phase is a detox for the soul. It clears the mental clutter, creating a vacuum that can then be filled with life. The protagonist finds himself with hours of free time, a sensation that initially causes panic. This is the withdrawal symptom of the workaholic. But as the panic subsides, it is replaced by a sense of possibility. He has reclaimed the one resource that cannot be renewed, his time. But clearing the schedule is only half the battle. The protagonist is still tethered to the location of his work. He is efficient, but he is not free. He needs to sever the chain that binds him to the desk. This leads to the concept of liberation from the physical. But before he can fly, he must build a machine that flies for him. He cannot just stop working, he must replace himself. The narrative sets the stage for the next great leap. A is for automation. The protagonist realizes that he is the bottleneck in his own life. He is the one answering the customer service calls. He is the one shipping the products. He is the one making the decisions. To be free, he must become irrelevant to the daily operations of his income. He must build a muse. The muse is introduced not as a passion project, but as a vehicle for funding the lifestyle. It is a business designed from the ground up to be automated. The protagonist stops trying to build a massive empire that requires thousands of employees. Instead, he looks for a niche product, a nutritional supplement, a specialized software, a how-to DVD for a specific hobby. He tests the market before he even builds the product, using Google AdWords to see if people are actually searching for the solution. He sells the dream before he manufactures the reality. This is testing the muse. Once the demand is proven, he does not hire a staff. He hires a system. He finds a manufacturer to make the product. He finds a fulfillment center to ship the product. He finds a call center to answer the phones. He connects these pieces like Lego bricks. The story describes the sensation of the first automated sale. The protagonist is sleeping, or perhaps eating dinner with friends. His phone buzzes. He checks it. A notification. You have received a payment of $97. He didn't do anything. He didn't talk to the customer. He didn't pack a box. The system worked. The money appeared. It feels like magic, but it is simply engineering. This is the turning point where he moves from being a business owner who owns a job to being a new rich who owns a system. But the system needs maintenance, and the protagonist is still tempted to micromanage. He needs a gatekeeper. He needs someone to stand between him and the chaos of the world. He needs the virtual assistant. The introduction of the virtual assistant, VA, is a comedic and philosophical turning point. The protagonist, accustomed to doing everything himself because no one can do it as well as I can, forces himself to hire someone in Bangalore or the Philippines. He starts with small tasks. Find me a restaurant reservation. Research this topic. Buy my mother flowers. It is awkward at first. The instructions are misunderstood. The flowers are sent to the wrong address. The protagonist wants to fire the VA and take back control. But he persists. He learns that the problem is not the VA, the problem is his inability to give clear instructions. He learns to create rules and standard operating procedures. He empowers the VA to make decisions. If the problem costs less than $100 to fix, fix it. Don't ask me. The analysis of the automation phase reveals the psychology of control. The biggest barrier to automation is not technology, it is the ego. We want to believe we are indispensable. We want to believe the business will crumble without our genius touch. The new rich swallow this pill of humility. They realize that it is better to have a task done 80% as well by someone else than 100% perfectly by themselves. If it frees them to live, the VA becomes the avatar of the protagonist's freedom, the digital clone that handles the drudgery while the human enjoys the poetry of life. The protagonist now has a business that runs on autopilot and a schedule that is empty. The chains are broken, the door is open, the world is waiting. The narrative now pivots to the final and most terrifying phase. L is for liberation. The protagonist has the time and the money, but he is still sitting in his apartment, staring at the wall. The cage door is open, but the bird is afraid to fly. He faces the void. This is the existential crisis that comes when the noise of the rat race stops. Who are you when you are not your job? What do you do when you don't have to do anything? The deferrer dreams of retirement as a time to do nothing. The new rich realizes that doing nothing is a path to depression. The goal is not idleness, the goal is the freedom to choose your struggle. The story takes us through the mechanics of escaping the office. For the employee, this means the disappearing act. The protagonist, if he were an employee, would start by calling in sick for a few days, then proving that he was more productive at home than in the office. He would negotiate a remote work agreement, bit by bit, 1 day a week, then 2, then full-time. He would use the puppy dog close, let me try it for just 2 days. If it doesn't work, I'll come back. Once he is out of the office, he is free from the geographical anchor. He can engage in geo-arbitrage. This is the financial superpower of the new rich, earning dollars while spending pesos, baht, or rupees. The protagonist moves to Buenos Aires or Bangkok. He realizes that his $40 a year, which made him lower middle class in New York, makes him royalty in Argentina. He eats steak dinners, takes tango lessons, lives in a penthouse, and still saves money. This is the mini-retirement. Instead of a 2-week vacation where he rushes around trying to see everything before returning to the grind, he relocates for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. He immerses himself in the culture. He learns the language. He lives locally. The frantic pace of the tourist is replaced by the slow rhythm of the resident. But the journey is not just about cheap luxury. It is about the reconstruction of the self. The protagonist confronts the void by filling it with learning and service. He learns to kickbox in Thailand. He learns to race motorcycles in Italy. He volunteers at an orphanage. He realizes that life is not about the accumulation of things, but the accumulation of skills and experiences. He rediscovers the curiosity he had as a child, before the school system and the corporate world crushed it out of him. The analysis of the liberation phase warns of the re-entry shock. When the protagonist returns home, or when he meets his old friends, he feels a disconnection. They are talking about traffic and office politics. He is thinking about the sunset over the Andes. He realizes he has become a stranger in his own land, but he has found a home in the world. As the first 10,000 characters draw to a close, the framework of definition, elimination, automation, liberation has been laid out. The protagonist has transformed from an exhausted cog in the machine to a sovereign individual, the master of his own time and fate. But the devil is in the details. How exactly does one build a muse? How does one handle the loneliness of the digital nomad lifestyle? How does one navigate the complex emotions of leaving the normal path behind? The story is far from over. The philosophy has been established, but the tactical warfare of the lifestyle design is just beginning. The protagonist stands on the balcony of a villa in a foreign land, looking out at a horizon that is no longer limited by the walls of a cubicle, ready to dive deeper into the mechanics of this new existence. Most fail not because of a lack of effort, but because of a surplus of assumptions. We assume that to start a business, we need a revolutionary idea, a venture capital injection, and a warehouse full of inventory. The narrative of the 4-hour workweek shatters this assumption with the precision of a diamond cutter. The protagonist, having defined his fears and eliminated the noise, now stands before the altar of the Muse, the automated income generator. He is not trying to build the next Microsoft, he is trying to build a machine that spits out cash while he sleeps. He realizes that competition is for losers. Instead of fighting in the crowded arena of general commerce, he seeks the blue ocean of the hyper niche. He ignores the mass market and focuses on the prosumer, the obsessed hobbyist who buys expensive gear. He imagines a product, high-end, French sailor-inspired yoga mats. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds too small. But in the world of the new rich, small is the new big. The narrative details the testing phase with the tension of a heist movie. The protagonist does not order 5,000 yoga mats. He does not rent a warehouse. He commits the ultimate act of business heresy. He sells a product that does not exist. He builds a simple, one-page website. He writes compelling copy that promises the benefits of the mat. He finds a stock photo. And then, he adds a buy now button. But here is the twist. When the customer clicks buy, they are not charged. They see a page that says, sorry, we are currently out of stock. Please leave your email to be notified. The protagonist runs $50 worth of Google AdWords to drive traffic to this phantom store. He waits. He watches the data. If nobody clicks buy, he has lost $50 in an afternoon. But if 50 people click buy, he has struck gold. He has validated the demand before spending a dime on supply. The analysis of this stage reveals the power of micro-testing. The new rich do not guess, they know. They use the internet as a laboratory to prove the concept, eliminating the financial risk that paralyzes most would-be entrepreneurs. Once the muse is validated, the protagonist moves to manufacturing and fulfillment. He finds a contract manufacturer in a low-cost country to produce the mats. He does not have them shipped to his garage. He refuses to touch the product. He ships them directly to a fulfillment center in the Midwest. This center is the invisible engine of his freedom. When an order comes in from the website, an email is automatically sent to the center. A worker there picks the mat, packs it, slaps a label on it, and ships it. The protagonist is nowhere near the box. He could be hiking in the Andes or sleeping in Tokyo. The system is hands-off. But the system has a flaw. Customers have questions. Where is my order? Do you have blue? My mat is torn. The protagonist's email starts to fill up. He is becoming a slave to his own success. He realizes he has automated the asterisk hands, but not the asterisk mouth. This leads to the rules of automation. The protagonist hires a remote customer service team. But he doesn't just hire them, he programs them. He realizes that 80% of questions are the same. He writes a detailed FAQ. He creates email templates. But the most sensational move is the empowerment rule. He tells his support staff, if the customer has a problem that can be fixed for less than $100, just fix it. Do not ask me for permission. Send a replacement. Refund the money. I trust you. This terrifies him. He fears they will give away the store. But the opposite happens. The staff feels trusted. The customers get instant resolutions. The emails to the protagonist stop. He checks his inbox, silence. He checks his bank account, growth. He has achieved management by absence, MBA. He is no longer the CEO, he is the architect. The narrative then pivots back to the employee. What if you can't start a muse? What if you love your job but hate the office? The protagonist acts out the Great Escape script. He does not march into his boss's office and demand to work from home. That is suicide. Instead, he plays the long game. He calls in sick on a Tuesday and Wednesday. During those 2 days, he works from home with a manic intensity. He sends emails at 7 a.m. He finishes projects ahead of schedule. He is a productivity machine. When he returns on Thursday, he shows his boss the results. Look how much I got done without the distractions of the office. He says, he proposes a trial. Let me work from home just 1 day a week. If my output drops, I'll come back immediately. The boss, seeing the data, agrees. The protagonist performs. Then he negotiates for 2 days. Then 3. Eventually, he is remote. He has severed the physical tether. He is free to roam. Now, the protagonist stands at the airport. A one-way ticket in his hand. He is leaving the deferrers behind. He lands in Buenos Aires. The first few weeks are a blur of hedonism. He eats the steaks. He dances until dawn. He sleeps until noon. He is living the dream. But then, the narrative takes a dark, psychological turn. The adrenaline fades. The novelty wears off. He wakes up one morning in a beautiful apartment, with money in the bank and no alarm clock. And he feels a crushing weight in his chest. He is bored. He is lonely. He has stared into the void, and the void is staring back. This is the crisis that no travel brochure mentions. When you remove the external structure of the 9 to 5, you must build an internal structure, or you will collapse. The new rich depression is real. It comes from the loss of social utility. He feels useless. The analysis of this void reveals the difference between escapism and life design. Escapism is running away from something, a bad job. Life design is running towards something. The protagonist realizes he cannot just consume, he must create. He cannot just observe, he must participate. He discovers the concept of eustress, good stress. The stress of the deadline was bad. The stress of learning a difficult language or mastering a martial art is good. It stimulates growth. He enrolls in a Spanish immersion school. He joins a local tango club. He sets a goal. I will win a local tango competition in 3 months. Suddenly, his days have structure again. But this time, it is a structure he chose. He is not working for a paycheck, he is working for mastery. The narrative flow carries us to the art of the mini-retirement. The protagonist realizes that travel is often just a frantic attempt to collect photos. He slows down. He stops staying in hotels and rents an apartment in a local neighborhood. He stops visiting museums and starts visiting the local bakery. He makes friends with the butcher. He becomes a temporary local. This shifts his perspective on time. He is not spending time, he is investing it in relationships and understanding. He realizes that living in Buenos Aires for $1 a month is not a compromise, it is an upgrade from his $4 a month life in New York. This is the geo-arbitrage of happiness. He is buying a millionaire's lifestyle for a middle-class price. But the protagonist is still haunted by the ghost of productivity. He feels guilty when he is not checking email. He feels anxiety when he is disconnected. He implements the information detox with a new rigor. He realizes that ignorance is bliss is not just a saying, it is a survival strategy. He stops reading the news about the stock market crash in New York. Does it change his life in Argentina? No. He realizes that most news is designed to make him anxious, so he will buy things. By cutting the cord, he reclaims his mental bandwidth. He uses this bandwidth to read books, to write, to think. He discovers that his best business ideas come not when he is staring at a spreadsheet, but when he is walking through a park in Mendoza. The muse grows because he ignores it, not in spite of it. The story intensifies as the protagonist faces the social mirror. His friends back home are angry. They are jealous. They call him irresponsible. They say he is ruining his career. The protagonist has to make a choice. Does he live for the approval of the deferrers? Or does he live for himself? He realizes that average is just the best of the worst. He embraces being a nonconformist. He learns the power of saying no. He says no to meetings. He says no to weddings he doesn't want to attend. He says no to obligations. Each no is a brick in the wall of his freedom. He realizes that the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. The narrative brings us to the concept of service. The protagonist has mastered his body, tango, kickboxing. He has mastered his wallet, the muse. And he has mastered his time, automation. But something is still missing. He feels a need to give back. But he rejects the deferrer's charity, writing a check at the end of the year to assuage guilt. He wants hands-on benevolence. He uses his free time to volunteer at a local school. He uses his business skills to help a local charity fundraise. He realizes that service is the rent we pay for living on this planet. And unlike the deferrer who says, "I'll volunteer when I retire," the protagonist volunteers now, while he has the energy and the time. The act of giving connects him to the humanity he had isolated himself from. It fills the void with meaning. As the second part concludes, the protagonist has completed the cycle. He has defined his life, eliminated the noise, automated his income, and liberated his location. He is a citizen of the world. He has faced the demons of fear, boredom, and loneliness and conquered them. But the final lesson remains. How does one maintain this lifestyle in a world that is constantly trying to pull you back into the machine? How does one deal with the re-entry when the mini-retirement ends? And what is the ultimate legacy of a life lived on one's own terms? The story prepares to descend into the final synthesis of the philosophy. Answering the question, is the 4-hour workweek a selfish hedonism? Or is it the ultimate expression of human potential? The air is thick with the realization that the revolution was never about working 4 hours, it was about living 24. The truth is, most people misunderstand this. They believe that the ultimate goal of the 4-hour workweek is idleness. A permanent vacation where one does nothing but sip Mai Tais on a hammock until the brain turns to mush. But the narrative reveals a sensational twist. The opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference, and the opposite of happiness is not sadness. It is boredom. The protagonist, having liberated himself from the office and automated his income, finds himself in a paradise that quickly feels like a purgatory. He realizes that doing nothing is unbearable for a creature designed to create. The deferrer dreams of retirement because he hates his work. The new rich rejects retirement because he loves his life. The protagonist faces the existential vacuum and must fill it. Not with busy work, but with life. He discovers the concept of continuous learning. He rejects the idea that education ends at 22. He turns the world into his classroom. In Argentina, he doesn't just watch tango, he hires a world champion instructor. In Japan, he doesn't just eat sushi, he learns the art of archery, Kyudo. He realizes that the brain craves eustress, the positive stress of mastering a new skill. The sensation of progress, of going from novice to intermediate in a foreign language in 3 months, provides a dopamine hit far more potent than a promotion or a raise. He becomes a polymath, a collector of skills. He learns that expert status is not a degree on a wall, but a function of focused immersion. By reading the 3 best-selling books on a topic and interviewing 3 experts, he knows more than 95% of the population. He realizes that the barrier to entry for almost any skill is shockingly low if you remove the distractions of the 9 to 5. The narrative then pivots to the vocation of service. The protagonist realizes that a life centered solely on the self is hollow. He has the time and the money, but he lacks the mission. He discovers that service is not about guilt, it is about connection. He stops writing passive checks to faceless charities and starts hands-on philanthropy. He uses his marketing skills to help a local nonprofit revamp their website. He mentors a student. He organizes a community cleanup. He realizes that when you remove the desperation of survival, the natural human impulse is to help. The new rich are not selfish hedonists. They are the most effective philanthropists because they give the 2 most valuable resources, time and attention. The analysis of this stage reveals the hierarchy of meaning. First, you survive, income. Then, you thrive, lifestyle. Finally, you matter, service. The 4-hour workweek is merely the mechanism to speed up the first 2 steps so you can spend the rest of your life on the third. But the journey is not without its dragons. The narrative confronts the ghost of the old life. The protagonist returns home for a visit. This is the re-entry shock. He walks into a bar to meet his old friends. They look tired. They are checking their Blackberries under the table. They talk about their mortgages, their bosses, and the traffic on the I-95. The protagonist tries to talk about the sunrise in the Andes or the taste of street food in Vietnam. But he sees a glaze in their eyes. They cannot relate. Worse, they are defensive. They attack his choices. Must be nice to not have responsibilities. They sneer. When are you going to get a real job? The protagonist feels a wave of alienation. He realizes he has unplugged from the matrix, and he can no longer plug back in. He sees the deferrers running on a treadmill that is going nowhere. chasing a carrot on a stick that is tied to their own heads. The sensation is one of profound sadness mixed with relief. He realizes that normal is a form of insanity that has been standardized. The analysis here reveals the social cost of freedom. To be free is to be misunderstood. The new rich must build a new tribe. He seeks out other travelers, other entrepreneurs, other lifestyle designers. He finds his community not in his zip code, but in the cloud. The story then addresses the maintenance of the machine. The protagonist, now a seasoned traveler, must ensure his muse, the automated business, does not collapse while he is gone. He implements the Monday morning triage. He checks his business only on Mondays. He looks at the reports from his fulfillment center and his virtual assistants. If there is a fire, he puts it out. If the profit margin is holding, he closes the laptop. He realizes that business problems are like hydras. If you cut one head off, two more appear, unless you starve the beast. By refusing to engage daily, he forces the business to become resilient. He empowers his staff to handle the chaos. He accepts that glitches will happen, a lost shipment, an angry customer, but he calculates the cost. Is it worth paying $50 to fix a problem? Or is it worth paying $1 of his own time to prevent it? He chooses the $50 loss. He treats it as a tax on freedom. The narrative intensity builds as the protagonist faces the siren song of expansion. His muse is making $10 a month. The deferrer in him whispers, if you worked harder, you could make $20. If you expanded to Europe, you could make $50. Greed wakes up. The protagonist feels the urge to dive back in, to hire employees, to rent an office, to scale. But he stops. He pulls out his dream line. He looks at the cost of his ideal lifestyle. It is $8 a month. He is already making $10. Why does he need more? He realizes that growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell. The new rich seek sufficiency. Once the target is hit, any extra effort yields diminishing returns on happiness. He chooses to keep the business small, simple, and automated, rather than large, complex, and demanding. He chooses time over more money. The story moves to the final philosophical integration, the option of the quit. The protagonist realizes that the ultimate power of the 4-hour workweek is not that he has to travel forever, but that he can. He might decide to go back to a 9-to-5 job because he finds a project he is passionate about. But he goes back as a volunteer, not a conscript. He can quit at any moment. He has FU money streaming into his bank account every month. This changes the dynamic of work entirely. He speaks his mind. He takes risks. He works with joy because he is not working out of fear. The sensation of walking away power is the true gold standard. The 4-hour workweek is a toolkit for becoming anti-fragile. The narrative concludes with the protagonist sitting in a cafe, perhaps in Paris or Prague, watching the world go by. He is not a billionaire. He is not famous, but he is the master of his own fate. He opens his notebook and writes down the 13 new rich commandments. 1. Relative income is king. **** Time and mobility multiply the value of money. 2. Distress is bad. Eustress is good. **** Seek challenges that grow you. Avoid stress that grinds you. 3. Eliminate before you automate. **** Never automate something that can be eliminated. 4. Never check email in the morning. **** It scrambles your priorities. 5. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. **** Action beats deliberation. 6. Emphasize strengths. Don't fix weaknesses. **** You can outsource your weaknesses. You cannot outsource your unique genius. 7. Information is a tool, not a hobby. **** Learn only what you need for the immediate task. 8. Being busy is a form of laziness. **** It is lazy thinking and indiscriminate action. 9. The timing is never right. **** Waiting for the perfect moment is a death sentence for dreams. 10. Retirement is worst-case scenario insurance. ***, prepare for it, but do not live for it. 11. Reality is negotiable. The rules of society are merely suggestions. 12. Focus on the critical few. 80% of outputs come from 20% of inputs. 13. Fear is a compass. The thing you are most afraid to do is usually the thing you most need to do. The protagonist closes the notebook. He pays for his coffee with a card linked to a bank account fed by a business that runs itself. He stands up and walks out into the sunlight, not knowing exactly where he will go next, but knowing that the choice is entirely his. He has escaped the deferral plan. He is living in the now. Analyze the ultimate meaning that the book intends to convey. The 4-hour workweek is a manifesto for lifestyle design and the reclamation of agency. Tim Ferriss's core message is that the life script handed to us by society, work hard, save, retire, die, is a bad deal. It posits that we have confused resource, money, with the goal, freedom. The book serves as a tactical manual for decoupling time from income. It challenges the reader to stop asking, "How can I get a raise?" and start asking, "How can I own my time?" The final lesson is one of radical experimentation. You do not need to wait until you are 65 to live the life you want. You can take mini retirements now. You can test your dreams now. The only thing standing between you and a life of adventure is a set of outdated assumptions and the fear of the unknown. The climax of this journey leads to a state of sovereign mobility. The seeker moves from being a passenger in their own life to being the pilot. They realize that the world is malleable, that rules are breakable, and that the greatest risk is not failure, but the regret of a life unlived. The journey ends with the realization that time is the only true currency. And spending it in a cubicle doing work you hate is the ultimate bankruptcy. The goal is not to be idle. The goal is to have the freedom to do the unidle things that make life worth living.